The Pulse of Spokane is a broad show that showcases many different things in our community, sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You.
Well, thanks for joining us here on the Pulse of Spokane as we are just about halfway through July. I can say personally that if there's one thing this pandemic has done, it's distorted my perception of time. And as I'm joined today by Dan Blanchard of Trebon Financial Strategies. Dan, how about you? How's the last 4 months treated you? What's it been like?
It's been a ride,
yeah,
for sure. It's different, but it's been overall not too bad.
Okay, so how are things going at Trebon Financial Strategies?
Well, not too bad. Things are actually, I was pretty much already set up for remote type work with a lot of my clients anyway, so that wasn't a huge transition. So I've been able to keep things rolling that way with the communication. A lot of my business is communicating with my clients, and so I prefer to do that live, but when I can't, we can always do it remotely, and that works out pretty well.
Yeah, I shouldn't say it's shocking, but there have been so many people and so many businesses that have been able to transition very seamlessly just because of the technology that we have at our disposal. And for a lot of people, it's also been normal. It hasn't really been a transition or an adjustment, rather. Before I ask you a little bit more about Trebon, I actually was digging through the LinkedIn account, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it says that you attended Embry-Riddle.
I did.
So, if I may ask, how did you shift from aeronautics and aerospace engineering and things of that caliber to finance?
Yeah, it actually was, I get that question a lot, and it was actually a pretty smooth transition. But if I go back about 35 years when I was in the military, I always had a pretty good head for finances, to where at one point I had a roommate that just couldn't hold on to his money, and he asked me for some help. So it actually started then, and throughout all my years in my aerospace career, I was always involved very actively with financial management and helping people get out of debt and things like that. So then I moved up through the ranks in the corporate aerospace businesses, and a lot of that was finance. So when I got done with that career, it was a fairly smooth transition for me to just move dedicated to financial stuff.
Yeah, no, it was fascinating to see that, though, because I was like, he must have pivoted at some point, but that would make sense that if you were always somebody that was pretty good about money, I mean, that doesn't just go away just because you start studying something else, individual or particular. Yeah. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Trebon Financial Strategies and what it is that you guys do and provide?
Yeah. Well, what we provide for people is a means of teaching them how money works. We're going to get to the whole branding of that in a few minutes. But I've always wanted to help people, because finance is one of those areas that it isn't taught very much in the schools. And if people don't learn it from their parents, there's not a lot of great resources out there. So I wanted to find and develop a business model where I could help people and then not hand them an invoice at the end of the day. Because if they're already struggling with finances, the last thing they need is another bill, right? So I was able to develop a model. I started my business helping small businesses with debt restructuring and things like that. And then I sort of moved into, I still do some of that, but I moved into helping families and individuals really understand the money game, I like to call it, and how to win the game. Because if we don't know the rules, we can't win the game. So I just teach them the rules.
So on a personal level, was there anything growing up about money? What was it that let you be so good about it? Why has it piqued your interest? Why has it been something that you've always valued knowing how to handle?
That's another great question. And I'm sure at some point my mom will watch this, but I want to say I learned a lot what not to do from my parents when it came to money. Okay. And not to anything they did wrong on their own, but circumstances were tough. High interest rates, and high costs of living back in the 70s and 80s was rough. So they had a hard time. So I did observe, and I learned a lot of things, what I did not want. Yeah. And so I sought out the things that I would need to find in order to not have those same types of problems they had. And that's what really led me down that path of starting to explore and find out what could I do that's different. And it was a bit of a tough road sometimes. So
what are some of the concerns or questions that your clients or the people that you're working with What have those looked like over the course of the past few months? Because obviously there are so many Americans that struggle financially on a day in, day out basis, let alone adding a global pandemic into the fray. What has that scene looked like as of late?
Yeah, that's actually one of my areas of focus, and that is tax advantage strategies. Prior to COVID, if we can skip back 4 or 5 months and just think before that, our country is heading towards a debt cliff, right? We're adding a lot of money to the national debt. Now after COVID, we've added a lot more. There's about $3-4 trillion more in the last few months.
Okay, perfect.
Right? It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Just trillions now. We went from millions to billions. Now we talk trillions as if it's just pennies, right? And even prior to that, we've got a big problem where the only way that the government can raise revenues is to raise our taxes, our income taxes. And so there are some expert economists out there that are predicting significant increases in our tax rates. So if that happens, that's going to impact people mostly in retirement the most, because once people have retired, they're on a fixed amount of whatever they have saved for themselves. Taxes will eat away at that in a very, very large way if they don't do something about it. So I help people very specifically with tax advantage strategies, and many of those people are able to obtain their retirement income at that time tax-free. So that's a big part of the strategies.
Okay. And so you brought with you today a book, an educator of sorts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how money works?
Yeah, one of the hats I do wear is as a financial educator, and I put on free workshops and free one-on-one sessions with anybody that's willing to listen, and I want that to be a large number because as many people as I can help, I want to help. And I'm building a team of people that are helping me with this educational process. The book is a really great resource written by one of my colleagues, and it just came out this year around February, so just before the whole pandemic situation started and the lockdowns and all that. And we've been using this as a resource. It was quoted as saying that this is all the financial books that are out there distilled down into just the most important topics. The average person can read this book in about an hour to hour and a half.
Okay.
And it was written in kind of a fun way. There's some characters in the book. It's very colorful, so it's attractive to a younger crowd as well, some of the kids, as well as very important information for adults.
And so if you could just highlight or give a brief synopsis on maybe just a portion of it and how to not be a sucker, as the cover of the book states, when it comes to handling your finances. Yeah.
Well, a lot of us, the title of the book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, because a lot of us have been suckered into different financial models and different financial ways of doing things that haven't really worked out in our best interest. The banks, they know how to make money. They do a very good job at what they do, and they serve a really good purpose. Saving our money is probably not the best thing they do for us. They give us a little tiny amount of interest, and they charge quite a bit if you want to borrow some money from them. So there are other better ways to save money. A great example of saving is in the book. I know it's on page 48 because I reference it all the time. There's 2 examples in there. There is a 22-year-old that starts saving some money for 8 years. She starts saving $4,000 a year, and she ends up at the end of, when she goes into retirement with about $1.4 million in the bank. Well, the other example is the guy that he doesn't start at age 22. He waits till age 30, and then he has to save that same amount monthly for the rest of his working life just to end up with about $1.3 million in savings. So the moral of that story is save as much as you can in the early years because it gets the most amount of time to work for you in the form of compounding.
Okay.
So that's principles like that are illustrated in the book in a very colorful, easy way to read.
And that's huge for a reader too, especially people that are younger and the attention spans and everything, making it bright, maybe put a couple pop-ups in there, really grab the attention. With the people that you find yourself working with and helping to educate, is it fair to say that a large number is of a younger demographic, or is it all over the place?
It's all over the place. There's the 2 main areas that I focus on, though, are the younger people. And when I say younger, I'm talking people that are just entering the workforce or just starting to earn money and learn how to save effectively. Because most of us, myself included, was taught to save, but I was never really given any kind of goals, like how much of that I should be saving. Is this forever? Is this for short term? I didn't know. And all of those things fit in there. But what's really important is people now that are in the demographic of my age, sort of 50 and above, people that are starting to think more about retirement and maybe they either haven't saved enough, or in the cases of the people that have done really well, they have saved enough, but they've saved it in the wrong vehicles, and now they're going to get taxed at a very high rate when they start pulling that money out. There's time and strategies out there for those people to do some shifting now, between now and the time when tax rates do go up significantly higher, to make that shift and get themselves into either the 0% tax bracket or very close to it.
Okay. Is there, amongst these people, is there one financial thing that people get suckered into the most? Is there one that stands out that is the most that comes up the most often when people are not doing what they should be with their money?
I don't know if there's anything official, but I would say yes, and I would say that is consumerism.
Okay.
We as a society have a hard time. Everybody's vying for the dollars out of our wallet, and it's very easy to spend money on things that maybe we don't necessarily need. And that money, if it were put into a proper savings vehicle, could be doing so much more for people. So by the time they do get to the end of their working life and want to enter that stage of retirement, which is defined differently by everybody, once they get there, they can go there in a very much more comfortable fashion. So consumerism combined with debt, because the debt just really kind of feeds the consumerism. That's one thing to really think about. But I'm all for people buying and having things, but let's take care of the foundational stuff first. Let's get that savings and get some money working for you, so as you go down the road, you're going to have a really good, bright future, regardless of what happens with interest rates, with tax rates, and things like that.
Okay. And where can people find the book? And also, if people want to learn a little bit more and look into Trebon Financial Strategies website, where's the best place
my
to find it?
website, trebonstrategies.com, and you can click on the How Money Works link, or you can go directly to my How Money Works site, which is howmoneyworks.com/Dan Blanchard, my name. And there's a place in there where they can contact me, and I can teach people how to get a free copy of this book if they just contact me, and I can let them know how they can get a copy. I'll get it out to them.
Perfect. Look at that, free book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. We really appreciate it. A lot of good information, and you stay safe, and good luck with the rest of your educating people on finances. You're doing really good stuff that's more important, like you mentioned, not really taught in schools. However, you would think it would be a fundamental thing that adults should know how to do.
Right.
Thanks,
That's what we
Dan.
want to see. Thank you.
We're going to check you out the next time on The Pulse.
Hi, I'm Dave Lucas, running to be your state senator. I'm a husband, father, and Marine veteran with almost 22 years of experience. I know during this current medical emergency and time of uncertainty, people are concerned. I hope you and your family are doing well. I have the experience, leadership, and training to move us past this crisis. To learn more about me and my campaign for state senator, please follow me on my Twitter, Facebook, or my website at votedavelucas.net. Thank you, and stay well.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and a description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
When building a home or considering a major remodel, who are you going to choose? The Spokane Home Builders Association is an organization that works to elevate professionalism in the residential construction industry. We promote, protect, and educate for our community, building our community one home at a time. We are the Spokane Home Builders Association.
Hello, my friends and fellow Republicans. My name is Stephen T. Major, and I'm a candidate for the 5th Congressional District of the state of Washington. It goes without saying that we are living in exceedingly difficult times. We, the people, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in God we trust. These words have great meaning to me, and I believe to every American. These sacred ideals are under attack right now. In fact, our very liberty is in jeopardy. As your representative in Congress, I will fight for the values and interests of Eastern Washington in our country. God bless you, and I thank you for your vote.
Paid for by Stephen Major for Congress, Republican. Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You.